25 seconds, Joker's Wild, Part 1, production number 2440, take 1, recorded date 7th of the 5th, 72.
It's Joker's Wild, with the country's top comedians battling it out to see who knows all the jokes. And keeping them in line, it's Barry Cryer.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to another edition of Joker's Wild, the programme that is to television what Arthur Mullard is to flower arrangement. The rules are...
Very good.
If you haven't seen the programme, the rules are very simple. If you have seen the programme, they're very complicated. I think I'll get down to business and say the two teams are fighting for this trophy, which is in fact a life-size replica of Sir Alf Ramsey at a party at the German embassy. Now, on my right, we welcome Captain with his team, Captain Jack Douglas, with Warren Mitchell and Freddie Starr. Opposing them, we have Sterling Captain Les Dawson with Norman Collier and Roy Kinnear. Let's plunge straight into the game with each of our comedians telling a joke with the other team interrupting. We'll play the game and you'll see how it goes. Let's start with our very own Jack Douglas. Jack, I press the button, the card shoots up and the card says farms.
Farmers. Farmer walking round his farm looking for...
An interruption by Norman Collier.
And that was the voice of them all, Percy Edwards. That actually wasn't my
I'll
story.
give Norman 2 points for that, Jack.
Yes,
Fat
well.
stock prices. Back to Jack Douglas with farms.
The farmer
2
is...
points to Les Dawson's team.
Thank you. The farmer is walking around his farm looking for his helper, George. And he walks into the pigsty. He said, George, be in her. Not a sound. So he goes into the big barn. He said, George, be in her. All of a sudden, right from up in the rafters comes a voice, I be up her. So he looks up and he said, George, you silly old devil. What you doing up in the rafters with a rope round your middle? He said, well, farmer, I be that browned off, I'm trying to commit Susanside. He said, you silly old devil, you don't commit Susanside with a rope round your middle. You puts it round your neck. He said, I know, I tried that. I bloody near killed myself.
Get the needle match going straight away. 4 points to Jack Douglas, their team leading 4-2, and we go to rival captain Les Dawson. Your first subject, Les, Londoners.
Naknigay, nagaknago, gaknageknagu. Now, that's an old lament that's usually sung by ruptured pipers when a cat is up his leg. The reason I mentioned it, I spent some time in Scotland. I used to be in a trio in a laundrette. And during the trouser rights at Paisley, I met Hamish McQuirtle. He was the son of the soil. His father was the son of the soil. In fact, they were the filthiest family in Scotland. He was engaged to a caber-tossing dwarf called Winnie. She worked in a chamber pot factory in Glasgow, and we called her Winnie the Pooh. She was a loose living woman. And one night she was playing squash in a pub vault, and a cockney waiter whispered in her ear, and she was red as a beetroot, and she said to Hamish, that man from Battersea has just offered me 3 shillings if I'll spend the night with him and make love to him. And Hamish got hold of this cockney and battered him. The cockney, she, what do you do that for? He said, don't bring your London prices up here.
I can't let you get too far. 4 points to that. So you're leading 6-4 to Les Dawson's team. 6-4, and it's Warren Mitchell's debut in the game. Warren, your first subject, food.
Yes, nasty memory after that canteen up here today. Cool. Have I got to look at a picture myself all night?
No.
Turn that thing round. Horrible, ugly, bearded.
True.
Just playing for time. Food, yes. Well, it's always, I play a lot of foreign parts, and I met this Greek bloke. Told me he had a terrible time when he first came to. He was a Cypriot. First came to England, didn't speak a word of English, only the Greek. And he was all right all day working with his mates, but at night he had to go to a restaurant and order a meal. So he said to his friend, "What do I ask for?" In Greek, he said it all, you know. His friend said, "Well, you just go in and say fish and chips." So he learnt fish and chips, and he went in the restaurant the first night. He said, "Please, fish and chips," and they brought him the fish and chips. And the second night he went and said, "Fish and chips," and the third night he said, "Fish and chips," and the fourth night he said, "Fish and chips." And he got so fed up with it, he went to his friend in the factory and said, "I can't eat any more of these fish and chips. Please tell me something else that I can ask for." And his friend said, "You serve to me boiled egg, bread and butter." He said, "All right, boiled egg, bread and butter." And he went in the restaurant the first night. He said, "Please, boiled egg, bread and butter." And the waitress said, "Brown or white?" So he said, "Fish and chips."
Three for that, putting Jack Douglas's team 1 ahead, 7-6, and we go to Norman Collier. Norman, see what you can do with interior decorators. Who think of these?
Well, interior decorator. Well, this fella, he won £75,000 on the pool, you see. And I'll buy a big house. And he bought this big house. And his favourite colour was yellow, you see. He loved the colour yellow. So he painted it all yellow, all the house outside yellow, even the lawn yellow. Paints everything yellow, inside the kitchen yellow. When on a meal, it was always custard. Get down. Even the yellow dog. And inside the lounge, yellow. Bedroom, wallpaper, beds, yellow. Everything absolutely yellow. And later on, they all got yellow jaundice to the family. And they died. Not of the disease. When the doctor came, he couldn't find them.
I'll give that 3 points. 3 points, 9 points to Les's team. You can find Norman Collier in the yellow pages, as we do, in fact, go to and welcome Freddie Starr to the game. Fred, I press the button and the card says, doctors. Fred.
What?
Fred, doctors.
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 That's a subject for you to... Doctors.
Nice
Come,
hands.
little...
Pardon?
What?
Nice hands.
Very interesting.
Pardon?
I want you to exposite on the theme of doctors to your heart's content.
Right then.
Play around with it. Let's have what you got.
Pardon?
Give them the lot. You know, they want it.
Cheeky. Anyway, this woman goes to doctors.
Yes.
And she said, Doctor! I've just swallowed the spoon. He said, well, sit down and don't stir.
2 points to the second opinion, 2 points to Freddie, Jack Douglas's team. Was there an interruption there from
Sit
Les's
down
team?
and
From
don't
Mr. Roy Kinnear.
I just thought it was a very good impersonation of Tommy Cooper.
It was, wasn't it, indeed?
It wasn't Tommy Cooper.
Huh?
It was Albert Tatlock.
The skill. It is Roy Kinnear's turn, actually. He buzzed at a very appropriate moment because Roy, I pressed the button and the buzzer or the button. What a funny way of handing in my notice. I'll start again. I pressed the button and the card says animals.
Get out of that one. So anyway,
Yes?
this lion
Yes.
went up to the chimpanzee
Yes?
and he said, "Chimpanzee, who's the king of the jungle?"
Yes.
And the chimpanzee said, "You are, lion."
Yes.
So the lion took the chimpanzee by the throat with his teeth and went, fam, 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 you see. And he said, and don't forget that. So the lion went up to a zebra and said to the zebra, "Who's the king of the jungle?" And the zebra said, "You are, lion." And so the lion took him by the throat, by the throat with his teeth, and he went, and he said, "Don't you forget that." And then the lion.
Interruption by Freddie Starr.
He's bloody mental.
And the... No, that wasn't it. No. The lion...
1 point already to Roy Kinnear. Go on, yes,
good.
Roy.
Then the lion went up to an elephant and said, who's the king of the jungle? And the elephant picked the lion up with his trunk and he went... and threw the lion about 100 yards. And the lion picked himself up and he said, all right. Just because you don't know the answer, there's no need to get nasty.
Another 4 points to Roy Kinnear for Les Dawson's team. Oh, this is getting ridiculous. Leading by 14 points to 9, and it's back to rival captain Jack Douglas. Jack, your second turn. The subject, dustbins.
No.
Yes.
Dustbins.
Oh, there's a million dustbins.
Yes, I just can't happen to think of one. Wait a minute. There's, yes, said he, thinking very quickly. Yes, it's coming through. Yes, just a second.
Garbage, sewage...
No, please don't get personal. Wait a minute. Scotland, Glasgow, gang warfare. And in the centre of this gang warfare, where it really was horrific, the rival gang said, now look here, little Jimmy, at 7 o'clock every night, he said, comes up to visit his mother on the corner. Now, when he comes up there, we'll all be hiding 8 of us in dustbins. And with the lids...
Interruption by Roy Kinnear.
And the elephant came up to the dustbin.
Two for nerve to Roy Kinnear. Back to Jack Douglas in Glasgow.
What has that got to do with dustbins?
That's a load of rubbish.
Jack Douglas, news at 10, Glasgow. The music, a new feature of our series. Isn't it catchy? Introduces the single spot in which we ask one of our comedians to step out here and step away from the game for 60 seconds and see how many laughs he can get. We have a box on this podium, if you'll pardon the expression, ladies and gentlemen, and in that box and envelope is the subject for a single. Let's have somebody from Les Dawson's team. Would you confer, gentlemen? Somebody from your team for the mystery subject?
Yes, go on. You can do it. Go on. What about you?
Go on.
Yes, you can do it.
Who's going to do it?
Go on, Norman.
Right, near Norman Collier or Les Dawson?
I've got that sinking feeling.
Captain, all right, go on, Captain. Pull rank. Les Dawson. And your first thing, Les, is to open the envelope, take out the card, and tell the people at home and all the people here.
I'll be bloody Starr Trek up here.
And those 3 people inside your suit, what the subject is. What's the subject for your single?
Accommodation.
Accommodation. Right, Les Dawson on the subject of accommodation for 1 minute, starting now.
I've just been offered £4,000 for my house, which isn't bad considering that only 2 years ago I paid £8,000 for it. I'm not saying it's in a mess, but if they ever pull it down for slum clearance, they'll have to repair it first before they demolish it. I'm not saying it's cold, but it's the only house I know that in winter it steams on the outside of the windows. And you talk about damp, we've even had to under-seal the mice. In fact, it's so bad in the bedrooms, the wife's got a downspout and a dressing gown. All the other kids round our way have got measles, ours get salmon rash. The only decent thing we had in that house was cheap air conditioning till some fool went and killed a bat. I got on the phone the other day to a surveyor. I said, I want this house pointing. He said, which way? I went to see him. He could see I was blazing. He said, now calm down, have some tea in my chambers. I said, I prefer it from a cup.
We'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, with Les Dawson's single score and more of the game in just a minute. See you then.
25 seconds. Joker's Wild Part 2, production number 2440, take 1, recorded date 7th of the 5th, 72.
Welcome to part 2 of the game with the news that at the end of part 1 in 60 seconds Leslie Dawson, aged 14, did in fact get 10 laughs, ladies and gentlemen. 10! We resume the game where we left it, and I'll tell you where we left it. We left it in part 2 of Jack Douglas's joke, as I remember. He was being interrupted and had been interrupted by Mr. Roy Kinnear, so back you go to your joke, Jack. Do you remember what it was?
Done in serial form.
Yes.
Now, wait a minute, where were we?
Dustbins, as I remember.
Ah, yes.
In Glasgow.
Yes, of course. He put the dustbin on his head and he said there was a young fella called Gray on a slow boat to China one day. He was chained to the tiller with a sex-starved gorilla, and China's a bloody long way.
I'd bet hard money that wasn't the joke he was going to tell before.
You're dead right.
I've had a horrified look at the scoreboard. Can it be true, we ask ourselves? Oh, well, I can't give you too many for that, Jack. I'll only give you 10 for that, Jack. We've got to do it, haven't we? 10, making 19 2. I know it is.
Don't want your charity, thank you.
£5. £5 and Jack Douglas well spent before the show. Les Dawson, I pressed the button, and your next subject, money.
My godfather was a retired Doncaster spittoon engraver.
I believe you.
And his wife was an ex-Nazi dog trainer. She didn't like him, and every night she used to hit him on top of the head with a boxing glove. He was the only fellow I knew with punch-drunk dandruff. One night she went to a Derby and Joan karate stranglehold competition and won £1,000 for cheating at Spot the Ball. She went to America where her sister was an architect in the mafia. And it was the first time he'd ever known peace. And a fortnight later, he got a telegram and it read, "Dear sir, sorry to inform you that your wife was drowned while swimming. When the body was recovered, a rare Madagascar crab was found hanging from her big toe. I've been instructed that a museum in Washington will pay you £10,000 for the crab. Please wire instructions." And he sent back, "Accept the offer and reset the bait."
More of a series than a joke when he gets going, isn't it? I'm going to be me. Oh, dear, this is ridiculous. I'm going to give that 1. The audience can now boo. The audience can now boo. Thank you very much. 27 to 19. And we go to Warren Mitchell. Warren, your next subject, soldiers. Soldiers.
Come on, Warren.
Queen might be. Now this is not these are not British soldiers. These are Arab and Israeli soldiers in the recent conflagration.
Interruption by Moisha Dawson.
I think I know this one, and this little Israeli soldier was always in bed. He was always asleep. Every time the battle raged, he was always asleep, so they court-martialed him. And the officer said, "This is ridiculous. You can never get up. Do we ever hear the bugle?" He said, "No, they play it when I'm asleep."
No, 1 for that. You can all boo again. 1 for that interruption. They're too far ahead, I tell you. Too far ahead. Back to Warren.
They don't have bugles in the Israeli army. They play a ram's horn.
To each his own.
Yes, quite. Well, there they were in the desert. And this Israeli soldier with a dog on a leash and an Arab with a dog on a leash.
Yes.
Shut up.
So is mine.
Shut up, you little scarskit. Shut up. My turn, isn't it?
All right, then.
Democracy. And there they were, and they both lifted their rifles, just going to shoot, and the Jewish soldier said, what do you want to do? What do you want to kill each other for? We're both young men, we both got our lives ahead of us. He said, "You've got a dog there, you've got this great big wolfhound, it had teeth like that." He said, "I've got a dog," and the Israeli had this dog with a long fat thing with his belly hanging on the ground, his nose pushed in like that. He said, "What do we want to kill each other for? I mean, what are we going to do ourselves? I mean, let the dogs fight, and whichever dog wins, that one takes the other one prisoner." So the Arab looks at the Israeli dog, and he's terrible looking. He's fat and long, with the belly hanging on the ground and a nose like that. And he's got his own dog. It's a fantastic, you know, wolfhound with the teeth. And he said, all right, Jew. He said, let the dogs fight. So they let the dogs go, and the Arab dog leaps, but he doesn't even get 2 inches off the ground because this extraordinary Jewish dog, his belly hanging on the ground, the nose like that, goes boom, like that, and he eats this enormous wolfhound with one gulp. And the Arab says, all right, I'm your prisoner. But he said, I don't understand it. I've got the fiercest dog in the Middle East. That is one of the fiercest. He said, I've never seen a dog like that, with the belly hanging on that long, fat thing. No, what sort of dog is that? And the Israeli soldier said, well, to tell you the truth, before he had a nose job, he was a crocodile.
7.
Oh! Excellent.
I'm not biased, I just want to draw. Now, Norman Collier. A comic to watch. British Rail. British Rail.
You can't tell a quick gag about British Rail, can you? That went well.
Leisurely.
I was on the platform of British Rail the other day, and there's a porter kicking a tortoise about. I says, come on, don't be cruel kicking the poor thing about like that. I said, what's the matter with you? He said, it's been following me around all day.
I said British Rail. That was an old tortoise joke changed round. British Rail. British Rail.
British Rail. Yeah. So I went into British Rail and I got one of these pies, and that was like a tortoise.
Interruption by Jack Douglas.
Oh. So this tortoise, belonging to the porter, strayed off. He went into this field, and it joined company with 2 rabbits who were sitting there. And the rabbit said, you know, he said, it's a very warm day today. The other one said, yes, it is. He said, why don't we have an ice cream? The other one said, yes, what a good idea, but who's going to go for it? He said, well, I don't mind. And the tortoise said, no, it's all right, I'll go for the ice cream. So the tortoise set off, and the rabbit sat there, and they waited 6 months. And after 6 months had gone by, he turned to his friend, he said, do you know, he said, I think that tortoise has forgotten all about us. And the tortoise popped his head round the rock. He said, hey, any more of that cheek, and I'm not going.
Very quick, speedy. 2 points, Jack Douglas. Sorry to leave. I know, I'm sorry, Norman, because we have to go to quickies. This is where I'm really going to throw a subject at you. Jack Douglas's entire team, will you think about doctors, gentlemen, doctors, quick jokes, now, any order.
Got it. Not a doctor, psychiatrist. He was a doctor, and a bloke went in the psychiatrist, and he said, doctor said, I'm suffering from schizophrenia, and the doctor said, that'll be 25 guineas each.
1 point already to Jack's team. 1. Freddie Starr.
Shut up! This fella goes into the doctor's... Get off! Don't touch me while I'm thinking. This fella goes into the doctor's, and he said, he said,
Got a bad speech impediment.
That's right, yeah. But this other fella walked in, and the doctor said, take your clothes off. He said, where shall I put them? He said, on top of mine. So they danced for a bit. Pardon?
A doctor and a psychiatrist met in the street, and the doctor said, I'm very worried about my wife. He said, she thinks she's a chicken. The psychiatrist said, don't worry, bring her to me in the morning. He said, I can't, we need the eggs.
2 points to Jack Douglas' team for that.
They're finished?
Yes, we'll wrap it up there. We'll leap over to Les Dawson's team.
So.
Gentlemen, let's have some jokes about grandmothers. Grandmothers, gents.
My grandmother was so fat she used to get her knickers on prescription.
3 points to Les Dawson. Norman Collier.
That tortoise. No, it was my grandmother. Get down. It was not my grandmother, my granddad. He went to the doctor. They said, Doctor, I've got wax in my ears. So he put a whip through, lit him up, and got my job as a nightlight.
2 points to Norman. Roy, grandmothers.
Unless you pay the last instalment on your grandmother's funeral, up she comes.
We'll wrap it up there. Roy, 2 points for that. And I do, in fact, declare, here's the score up to date, I do declare Les Dawson's team, ladies and gentlemen, the winners. So let's say goodbye for now to winning team captain Les Dawson, Norman Collier and Roy Kinnear. And gallant losers, but only on this occasion, I bet, Captain Jack Douglas, Warren Mitchell and Freddie Starr. I'll ask I'll ask winning captain Les Dawson to come and collect this trophy. My name's Barry Cryer. See you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.